Hey gang, welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. Today's video is part 38 in the Cobra Jet series, also known as Slither. Now in the last video I put together the rotisserie that I got from Redline Stands, and I'm pretty happy with it. I actually had a conversation, email with the owner of the company. He watched my video and he decided that they're going to make some changes to their equipment. One of those, I believe, is going to be lengthening the arm that goes through the center shaft. So as I demonstrated, this piece of bar stock might be about 2 feet long, something like that. And when I put it in the forward assembly here, it took some effort to try to get it to turn. So I think they're going to lengthen this a little bit. Another thing that they are looking to do is change the accessory pieces that I bought, the shackle mount deal, and make those holes smaller so that you can put a smaller bolt inside. So I like that. I also suggested a few other things to him, and we'll see what happens. One of those was to change the length of the crank, the arm on top. It's kind of hard to turn, so maybe they'll consider that. And another idea that I had, and this would be hard to implement to be honest, is to put index marks on the tubing on the bottom, right? Because when you start extending those pieces, you don't know where the end is. So it would be kind of a challenge, I think, to put some sort of an indicator on there. The reason for that is when you're stretching that out, you don't want it to fall out of that tube. You want it to stay within that range. So that might be a benefit, even if you just do that yourself. Let's say you got one of these and you drew a white line on top and you put some index marks. You could put like a limit, let's say 4 inches or something. Don't go past that point. Just an idea, but maybe they can do something with that. I know it makes it more difficult because all this stuff is powder coated, and once it's coated, you're pretty much done. You can't do much else. Now that I have the car on the rotisserie, the goal is to get work done on the bottom of the car. There are many areas where I did some welding and there may have been something in the way where I could not finish those welds, could not get around it, and that was part of the supports that I had on the pinch welds. So I took those out, and of course I can now see where I did not weld. Along with that, there's some additional plates that need to be completely installed on the Detroit Speed section, especially on the passenger side. I'd welded everything in, it's good and solid, but there's some additional welding that needs to take place there. And of course, grinding. Now there'll be more grinding going on, cleaning up these welds, getting them ready, and of course prepping the bottom of the car as much as I can to get it ready for seam sealer and primer. So that'll be this video and how I'm going to work on that. So let's get started by taking a look at the bottom of the car. Oh, and I did make some more adjustments, getting the car more on the center of gravity, so it's going to turn a bit easier. I like that a lot better. So you may have seen I locked in the forward assembly, then I went to the back of the car, adjusted it to lock in the back as well, because there's some play between those two. You're not going to have them perfectly in line, let's say, with each other because of movement within those pieces. So when I set the front, then I went to the back, and you saw I tweaked it a little, and then it dropped into place as well. Now let's take a look at the bottom of the car. So you've already seen where I've installed all of these pieces here, and now you can get a better look at the welds just to see where I placed them. Of course, I did the shock towers early on, attached them to the frame rails, and the frame rails to the floor supports, torque boxes, and then along with that, the original rocker panels and back here the mini tubs, and you can see all the areas that I've welded. So, and that's from the inside of the car. That's just showing you the heat imprint from the welding. And then back here, various other parts, like, I don't know how well it shows up on the camera, where I welded the trunk drop off to the quarter panel. Now, one of the things I need to address, just to show you real quick, on the driver's side frame rail, when I did the frame adaptation for Detroit Speed, it had a piece that went on top of, or underneath, let's say on the bottom of the frame rail, and that was this piece. So this piece needs to end up down here on this frame rail. So you can see this is, it's got a different length to it, so I'll have to make sure I get that laid in there just right. I think it's like that. So that'll get welded in. I have to grind down these welds. Up here, what I want to do is weld the edges all the way around, box that in, add more weld up here to make this as stiff as possible, which is what I did up there. Now all of that I did from underneath the car, and that's kind of awkward. And I think this is going to make it a lot better because you're not worried about the weld falling away from where you're trying to weld, let's say. So this piece has to go in, and again that'll go on the passenger side. There are some welds here that I need to blend down. I did some of that earlier. I think I have a video clip of that. I did some of that. There's a weld there that I could not get to because of my support that I had under the pinch weld. Same way up here. Some of those will need to be addressed. So it's just a matter of maybe going over each section and verifying the welds are complete and correct, grinding them down. Like here's one, I could not get all the way into it, so I'll burn that in, finish that off. That's got a little hollow spot. So little things like that need to be addressed, and that'll be what I focus on, at least at this point, to make sure everything on the bottom side is done. So I've been doing a lot of grinding, and that's the nature of the beast. You know, you get these welds here, knock them down, make them look better, find any hollow spots as I mentioned before, and fill those in. So all this is ground up here. I did grind on the torque boxes, try to clean those up. There's still some up here to do. This is the one pile of grinding debris. I also did some grinding on the inside of the welds, or the inside of the rocker panels, where I welded the inner to the outer. And I cleaned up some of the dynacorn welds. Just had some rough spots on them. I just wanted to smooth that up. Back here, same thing, a little bit there. And then back here, I'm trying to dress out all of this stuff. And there will be some more welding. I want things to look smooth. You know, even though this is it's a solid weld, there's still an edge there. So I may weld that again and just smooth it up just to make it look nicer. Same way here, this is looking really good. I also did some grinding on the trunk drop off.
where it meets the quarter panel and the outer wheelhouse. Now what I need to do is get this piece in place. So this is going to end up here. I'll get that, you know, kind of clamped in place, weld that up, and again do any kind of filling that I need to do. And as I said earlier, weld this solid all the way around, maybe even fill in this gap up on top there. I think I did that on the other side. So it's making progress, and even now I'm looking, oh, I missed some welds there that I have to grind. Now I may end up flipping it over the other way to get to the other ones. There's a hollow spot there I gotta fill. So this is a good time to just get caught up on any of the welds that need addressed. Much better. Now it may actually be easier to rotate this the other way just to get a better angle on these two sides. So I'm going to stop on that, leave that the way it is, and move on to this other section. So much better. So much better. You know, on that other side, I made a filler piece now that I look at it again, because this was such a big gap, just the way that it's made. Maybe I'll do that as well, replicate that same piece on the other side. And what I'm talking about is how big that gap is there. And what I did up here was create, I don't know how well the lighting works, created a filler piece there out of some of the original, or the original frame rail piece. So you can see it's got this joggle right here. I said joggle. It's not really a joggle. It's a notch. I just like to say joggle. So I may find another piece like that and remake it. Alright, so everybody knows I'm kind of picky and how I want stuff to be or to look, and this bugs me. I don't like this corner sticking out here. Now, seam sealer will take care of that, but I'm going to address this a little bit differently because I want it to be smoother, not have it be such a big lump. So what I want to do is cut a line into those corners so that I can compress it down and re-weld that. And I may end up trimming out a little piece of that and make a kind of a pie, so when it compresses it'll come together. Much better. Just a couple of minutes. Makes it look a lot cleaner. So now we don't have that big corner sticking out, which is nice. And also, you saw in the earlier sequence of time lapse that I did hit some of these other welds, just little pockets, making sure they're filled, don't want any gaps. This was one plug weld that I couldn't get to from behind because I had my my standoff sitting there for the frame jig. So yeah, I've got to make that piece and get it welded in. Alright, so I have the car now with the driver's side facing down, and it's going to be more of the same. There's still more grinding to do on these welds. Most of the other ones are addressed. There's a few down here, again, that'll need to be taken care of. These are all welded, just need to be ground down. I will point out that when I was doing this, I found on these rear torque box plates, there was a hole right here. Now, I don't know if that was intentional. I guess it had to be stamped there because it was one here, and there's also one here. And so I went ahead and just plug welded those back in. I didn't see any reason to leave that open. I see some grinding I didn't quite get when I had it facing the other way. So I'll have to take care of those as well. Same thing down here on the inside of the drop-off panel. And of course, a little cleanup on those welds down there. Also, I had intended to make a filler piece up there, but I realized that didn't need it. It was close enough that I could just weld it, and so I just welded it in and added a few wider welds here, and I think that'll be fine. I will continue to dress these down, or dress them up, let's say, but dress them down and try to make everything as smooth as possible so it looks nice. I have to weld on top of that plate and here, and just clean up a little on the back side. But yep, I'm just going to keep on going, try to get as much done as I can, and start prepping again for seam sealer and all that stuff. So keep chugging away. Now, I know the air compressor's running. I don't know how well you can hear me. But, these little areas down here, it's ideal to get something like this in there. You can come in from different angles. Okay, so as I was showing you with the little belt sander, that is so handy when you're trying to get into spaces where you can't get a sanding disc in there. So, you can take care of areas like this. Of course, I did blend down these welds. Now I see there's just a little pocket right there that needs to be filled. A little bit of blending needs to be done up here where the airbox meets the firewall, but that's all, it's all part of it. So, few welds here I probably should grind. And then moving to the back, I wanted to show you this. This is the inside, of course, of the Detroit Speed mini tub wheelhouse. And when I welded this in, I had welded this perimeter all the way around on the inside with the flange from the existing wheelhouse. So that's fully welded. And then where the mini tub meets the outer wheelhouse, I went ahead and did kind of 1-inch gaps or 1-inch welds. I don't see the value in running a weld all the way around this. You can do it if you like, but there's no additional strength that you'll get from that. So I'm going to grind these, taper them down, and then this will get seam sealed all the way around. Up here I did weld this front edge where it met the inner to the outer. So that's all welded. Now, the other thing I did is on this flange for the quarter to the outer wheelhouse, I did all these plug welds, and there's a few that I just had to touch up, just had little pockets in them. And I wanted to show you this because this flange is so wide. That's like, you know, I've said it before, my thumb is about 1 inch. So that's like 1.25 inches of width, and you really don't need that. In fact, over here, this is probably better that you can see that flange for the inner wheelhouse. I may come back and grind this down just to eliminate some of this material because there's really no value in it. And if you are putting on regular tires or even wide tires, this comes very close to that. Now, a lot of people will do the lip roll thing, and you can do that as well if you like, but I can eliminate a good bit of that material, maybe 1/4 inch or more. So still have some, you know, grinding to do there. I did re-weld or finish welding this plate in, and I will grind that and smooth it up a little. So there's still a lot to do. I've been trying to get as much done as I can, but this week I've had I strained my back earlier in the week, and so I haven't been able to do much the past couple days. I want to show you something else though as we move forward with this. I'm not going to be at a point where I can do any of the seam sealing, but I want to show you some of the stuff we have in preparation for when we get to that point. Now, Charles was very proactive in getting materials for me, and I appreciate him for that so much. If you look at what's here, these are all of the chemicals that he bought to address the underside of the car and various other parts. So if you look, here's like a drip rail self-leveling. I'm sure there's some compound in there, and he even bought the angle this just a little. He bought the gun, the applicator gun, so you can, you know, squeeze that out of the tube. Now this kit that he actually wrote on here, forward engine compartment, semi-gloss black. So I haven't opened that as far as the packaging, but I'm sure there's some reducer in here, the paint, and the hardener. So that's ready to go whenever I get to that point. He had also provided me with fast and firm seam sealer. So there's several tubes of that. And then there is rubberized undercoating. So I've got 4 cans of that here, and I've got more up here. These other cans, well, wait a minute, look at that. I didn't even look at that. That's the Schutz coating. Okay, so this is another type of undercoating, and this requires the use of these different tubes. Yeah, there it is. So we'll have to figure that out when I get to that point of how this is going to work. I don't know for sure yet. No cleanup gun. So I think these tips end up inside of these cans. This isn't pressurized. This is just a sealer. So if I remember seeing some video on this, I think this goes down inside. One of these goes down inside of this. I think that's how that works. I don't know what locks it on there. That'll come later, but just wanted to show you I have some more stuff here that is going to be associated with that. Now, this is the catalyst for these primers. So I have corrosion resistant primer in gray, and corrosion, that's also in gray, so there's plenty of that. Here we have, if I can get around here and show you. So here we have red chromate-free epoxy primer and gray chromate-free epoxy primer. And we also have the activator for those. So that's good. Here's some reducer. Here is some mastic body sealer. So all that'll come in handy. And then down here I have some more black epoxy primer and epoxy primer catalyst. So apparently that's going to mix, I'm going to guess 1-to-1 based on the cans. So there's a lot here to go through and obviously use when I get to that point. So like I said, there's still a lot of grinding to do, and you don't realize it until you start really digging into it. And I was hoping I could have more done and show you more of the seam sealing and all that sort of thing, but I really can't at this point. It also doesn't help that we've gotten some cooler weather, so even if I wanted to spray anything right now, I couldn't do it anyway just because of the weather conditions. Now, I also have, as I showed earlier, all of this stuff here that Charles had provided me with, and I will try to break it down as to what goes where and how much and all that sort of thing. He had wanted to do kind of the original style with the overspray and all that sort of thing, and there's some videos out there that really highlight how to do this using these materials. This is what he based it on. I think it was Jerry Heasley has done a video on that. So I will try to replicate kind of what he has done and show you all of that in the process. Okay, that'll be the end of this video. However, I do apologize for not having more done. I did something to my back Tuesday and I was unable to do much of anything Wednesday and Thursday, so I'm trying to get caught up. And you know, sometimes when you strain a muscle or strain your back or something like that, adding more work to it is not going to make it any better. So I had to take it easy, and you know, it is what it is. But I do want to thank you for watching. I will be posting another video after this one. It'll have more information on it. Hopefully everything can go smoother as I do more grinding and prep work before I put in any of the sealers or paints or any of that sort of thing. But that's the goal moving forward. Now, I do suggest that you sign up to Patreon if you haven't already. There is a link in the description below, and I want to thank those who have joined me on Patreon. They have helped me tremendously. Having their support helps me keep making videos on YouTube. I am trying to modify some of my older videos. I'm posting them on Patreon, and I'm also posting some of them back onto YouTube. I found that old videos are not getting the views, they're not getting any kind of revenue, and it's just not worth it to have them sitting there. So I'm trying to do what's best for everybody. I want to have videos on Patreon with no commercials, no ads, nothing like that, with some bonus material. So I'll be posting them there, and another version of that probably will end up on YouTube as well. Just trying to keep things moving and keep people interested. So as it is, once again, thank you for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.